is my son, and I have all the proof.
For 28 years, the village called her a thief of children. They said she stole a rich woman's baby during a storm. They said she hid the truth under poverty and prayers. They said the young man who called her mother was never truly hers. But on the afternoon the black cars arrived in Umuoma village, carrying a wealthy woman, 2 lawyers, and 1 brown envelope marked DNA results. Nobody was ready for what would happen. The rich woman stepped out wearing gold, pain, and anger. She pointed at the young man standing beside the poor nurse and said, "That is my son. I have come to take him home." The whole village went silent. The poor nurse, Mama Adana, did not argue. Her hands only trembled as she held the edge of her faded wrapper. For 28 years those hands had cooked for him, washed for him, prayed over him, and carried his fever through long nights. Now one paper wanted to erase all of it. The young man looked at the woman who gave him blood. Then he looked at the woman who gave him life. Before the sun went down, his choice would break 2 families, expose a secret buried since the night of his birth, and teach the whole village that not every mother is found in blood. This was not only a story about a switched baby. It was a story about what happens when a poor woman carries the punishment for a rich family's silence, and when a grown son is asked to choose between the truth in his blood and the truth in his memories. Long before the black cars arrived, before the DNA envelope, before the village gathered under the old mango tree, there was a storm. It was the kind of rain old people remembered for years. Thunder rolled over Umuoma like drums of judgment. Red roads became rivers. Roofs shook. Lanterns went out. Mothers pulled children close and whispered prayers into the darkness. At the small mission hospital near the market, the storm was not only outside. It was inside too. The building was old, with cracked walls and windows that never closed properly. The generator coughed like a dying animal. Rainwater entered through the ceiling in thin, angry lines. Nurses ran from one room to another with buckets, towels, and fear in their eyes. That night, 2 women went into labor at the same time. One was poor, quiet, and young. Her name was Ebra. She had walked through the rain with her mother because no motorcycle could cross the flooded path to her compound. The other was rich and surrounded by people. Her name was Amara Bello. Her husband was a powerful businessman from the city. Their driver had forced a black Mercedes through the storm, splashing mud against the hospital walls. The hospital had only 3 nurses on duty. The head midwife was old. One nurse was new and frightened. The third was Adana Ease, a young widow with kind eyes and a heart too soft for the world she lived in. Adana had no child of her own. Some women pitied her. Others whispered that a house without a child was a pot without fire. But Adana still came to work every morning with a smile, because every baby she helped bring into the world felt like a small answer to her empty arms. In Umuoma, old people later said the rain did not fall that night, it argued with the earth. The village paths disappeared under brown water, and every clap of thunder sounded like a warning that something precious was about to be misplaced. Close to midnight the generator died. Darkness swallowed the hospital. A nurse screamed. Someone knocked over a metal tray. Babies had begun to come, and the only light left came from kerosene lamps and lightning that flashed through the windows. In one room, Ebra gave birth to a boy. In the other room, Amara gave birth to a boy. Both babies cried. Both mothers wept. For one beautiful moment, the storm outside seemed to pause and listen to the sound of new life. Then the roof above the nursery cracked. Water poured in like a broken river. The old midwife shouted, "Move the babies. Move them now." Adana wrapped one baby in a blue cloth. The frightened nurse wrapped the other in white. The name tags were wet. Ink ran across the paper. The babies cried as thunder shook the hospital again. Somebody shouted that the back wall was leaking. Somebody else shouted that the city family wanted to leave immediately because the road might collapse. In the confusion, one lamp fell and went out. Adana remembered carrying a baby against her chest, feeling his tiny heartbeat knock against her own. She remembered saying, "Please, let us check the records again." She remembered Amara's husband shouting, "We are not waiting in this death trap. Give us our child." By morning the storm was gone. But so was the truth. The records were soaked. The name tags were unreadable. One family had left before dawn. One poor young mother lay feverish and weak. And 2 baby boys had crossed into lives that were never meant to be theirs. Nobody knew it yet. But the mistake had already begun walking into the future. For 3 days, the hospital tried to pretend everything was fine. The doctors dried the files in the sun. The nurses whispered in corners. The old midwife avoided people's eyes. Amara Bello and her husband were gone to the city with the child they believed was theirs. Ebra, the poor mother, was too weak to ask many questions. Her mother held the other baby and sang old songs to calm him. On the 4th day, Ebra died. Fever took her quietly before sunrise. Her mother cried until her voice became dust. The baby cried too, as if he knew that the first woman who held him would never hold him again. The hospital needed someone to sign the discharge papers. Ebra's family was poor, scattered, and afraid. Her mother was old and nearly blind. The baby's father had disappeared months before. Nobody wanted another mouth to feed. Adana stood beside the small bed and looked at the child. He was wrapped in a hospital cloth that smelled of rain. "What will happen to him?" she asked. The old midwife sighed. "Maybe the church orphanage. Maybe a relative. God will decide." But Adana had seen what happened to children passed from hand to hand like unwanted parcels. She had seen hunger turn their eyes too old. She had seen relatives take a dead mother's property and leave the baby with nothing. That evening she carried the child home. She told herself it was only for one night. One night became 1 week. 1 week became 1 month. And soon the village began to talk. At first they said, "Poor Adana. Her womb is empty, so she is comforting herself." Then they said, "Why is she holding that child as if he came from her own body?" Then, after rumors from the hospital began to leak like dirty water, they said something darker. There was confusion the night of the storm. Maybe she changed the babies. Maybe she gave the rich family the wrong child and kept the other one. Who knows what a desperate barren woman can do? The word spread faster than fire in dry grass. Adana went to the market and women stopped talking when she passed. She went to church and mothers pulled their babies closer. Children repeated what they heard at home and shouted, "Baby thief! Baby thief!" She reported to work one morning and found the hospital matron waiting with folded arms. "Adana," the matron said, not meeting her eyes, "until the investigation is finished, you should stay away." "But I did nothing," Adana whispered. "Then let God defend you." The investigation never came. Poor women did not receive investigations. They received blame. The hospital needed one person to carry the shame, and Adana was easy to carry. She was poor. She was widowed. She had no powerful brother to shout. No husband to defend her. No car parked outside to remind people that her name had weight. Inside her small mud house at the edge of the village, Adana rocked the baby through the night and cried without sound. "What should I do with you?" she whispered. The baby opened his small hand and held her finger. That was the moment her heart surrendered. "I will call you Chinidu," she said. God leads. Because if human beings refuse to lead us with truth, God will lead us with mercy. Years passed, but poverty did not pass with them. Chinidu grew like a small plant fighting through hard ground. He had bright eyes, a soft smile, and a way of holding Adana's face when she was tired, as if he could feel the weight the world had placed on her. When he was 3, he asked why other children had fathers. Adana pulled him close and said, "Some children are born with fathers in the house. Some are born with fathers in heaven. But no child is born without God. When he was 5, he came home crying because a boy called him a stolen baby. Adana washed the dust from his knees and said, "Listen to me, my son. People who do not know the full story often speak the loudest. Do not let their noise become your name." "Am I stolen?" he asked. The question cut her like a knife. She looked at the small boy she had fed from her own hunger, the child whose fevers had kept her awake, the child whose school uniform she had patched until the cloth looked like a map. "You are loved," she said. "That is what you are." But love did not stop hunger. There were days when Adana boiled only cassava water and told Chinidu she had eaten at a neighbor's house. There were nights when she sold firewood until her palms bled. At Christmas, when other children wore new shoes, Chinidu wore polished old ones from a church donation box. Still, Adana taught him dignity. "Poverty is not a crime," she told him. "But cruelty is. Never be cruel because you have suffered. Let your suffering make you gentle." No one saw the nights when Adana pressed her hand against her own stomach to silence hunger so Chinidu would not hear it growl. No one saw how she smiled in the morning as if sacrifice had not sat beside her all night. Chinidu became the boy who shared his pencil. The boy who helped old women carry water. The boy who defended smaller children from bullies, even when they mocked him later. Teachers noticed him because he was brilliant but also because he was kind. One teacher, Mr. Obi, visited Adana when Chinidu was 12. He sat on a wooden stool outside her house and said, "Mama Chinidu, this boy must continue school. He has a head like a lamp. If you give him oil, he will shine." Adana laughed sadly. "Teacher, even palm oil is expensive now. Where will I find school fees?" Mr. Obi looked at the patched walls, the cooking pot with no fire beneath it, and the boy pretending not to listen from behind the doorway. "I will help with books," he said. "But you must find the fees. Do not let the village bury this child." That night, Adana opened her wooden box. Inside were 3 wrappers, her late husband's shirt, 1 photograph from her wedding day, and a pair of coral beads her mother had given her. She touched the beads for a long time. They were the last thing she owned that connected her to a life before shame. The next market day she sold them. When Chinidu found out, he cried, "Mama, you should not have sold grandmother's beads." Adana cupped his face. "My son, beads sleep in a box. Education walks. I would rather see my sacrifice walking." That sentence followed Chinidu for the rest of his life. By 18 he won a scholarship to study community health in the city. The day he left Umuoma, he knelt before Adana in the red dust. "Mama," he said, "I may leave this village but I cannot leave the woman who carried me through it." In the city, Chinidu suffered quietly. He rented a small room behind a mechanic shop. The roof leaked. The neighbors fought. The city did not care that he was brilliant. It asked for money before it asked for dreams. He studied in the day and worked at night. He pushed wheelbarrows in the market. He cleaned a pharmacy. He helped a doctor organize patient files. Every month, no matter how little he earned, he sent something home to Mama Adana. Sometimes it was money. Sometimes medicine. Sometimes only a letter. "Mama, I ate today. Do not worry." Most times he had not eaten enough. But he had learned sacrifice from the best teacher. Years turned him from a skinny village boy into a calm, handsome man with quiet strength. He finished his studies in community health and returned to Umuoma at 28, not with a big car or a proud speech but with plans. He wanted to build a small maternity clinic. No mother should give birth in darkness again, he told the village council. No baby should be lost because rain entered a roof. No poor woman should be treated like her life is smaller than a rich woman's life. The elders nodded. Some clapped. Some felt shame. Many remembered the storm, though they pretended not to. Mama Adana stood at the back of the gathering, older now, thinner now, her hair touched with gray. She watched Chinedu speak and felt something warm and painful fill her chest. This was the child they had called stolen. This was the boy they said would become nothing. This was her sacrifice walking. 2 weeks later, the black cars came. They came on a Thursday afternoon, when the sun was hot and the market women were arranging tomatoes in small red pyramids. Children ran behind the cars, shouting because vehicles like that did not enter Umuoma unless a politician had died or a rich man was campaigning. The first car stopped near the village square. Then another. Then a third. A woman stepped out. She was tall, elegant, and older than her beauty wanted people to notice. Her wrapper was expensive. Her sunglasses were dark. Gold touched her ears, neck, and wrists. But none of those things could hide the grief sitting in her face. Behind her came 2 men in suits, one holding a leather folder. A security guard opened the back door and brought out a framed photograph of a baby. The woman looked around the village as if she had entered a dream that had once hurt her. "I am looking for Adana Ease," she said. Nobody answered at first. Then a boy pointed toward the road. "Mama Chinedu's house is there." The woman turned sharply. "Mama who?" "Mama Chinedu," the boy repeated. The name seemed to strike her. By the time the cars reached Adana's small house, the village had begun to follow. Women left their tomatoes. Men left palm wine. Children climbed walls. Old roomers woke up and stretched their legs. Adana was outside washing vegetables when the cars stopped. She looked up and froze. She recognized Amara Bello immediately. The village had seen funerals, weddings, and politicians before, but these cars carried something heavier than money. They carried a truth that had slept for 28 years, and truth, once awake, never returns quietly to bed. 28 years had passed, but grief has a way of preserving faces in the memory. Adana saw the storm again. The hospital. The baby. The shouting. The wet files. The rich husband demanding to leave. Amara removed her sunglasses. "Nurse Adana," she said. Adana stood slowly. "Madam Amara." The village gasped. So the rich woman knew her. Amara looked at the old house, the washing bowl, the patched curtain, and finally at Adana's face. "Where is he?" Adana's mouth went dry. "Who? Do not insult me with lies." Amara's voice shook. "Where is my son?" The words landed in the compound like thunder. One of the lawyers stepped forward and opened the folder. "Madam Amara Bello has conducted a private investigation regarding events at the Umuoma Mission Hospital 28 years ago," he said. "Medical testing has confirmed that Mr. Chinedu Ease is biologically her child." Adana heard the words but could not feel her legs. "No," she whispered, though she did not know whether she was denying the result or begging the world not to say it out loud. Amara lifted a brown envelope. "DNA does not lie." At that moment, Chinedu arrived from the clinic site with dust on his shoes and building plans under his arm. He saw the cars. He saw the crowd. He saw his mother standing like a tree after lightning had passed through it. "Mama," he called. Amara turned. For 28 years she had imagined this moment. Amara stepped toward him. Her courage broke and returned in the same breath. "My son," she whispered. Chinedu stopped. The whole village held its breath. He looked from the rich woman to Adana. "Mama, what is happening?" Adana opened her mouth, but no words came. Amara raised the envelope again. "Your name is not Chinedu Ease. Your birth name is David Bello. You were born to me in this village hospital 28 years ago during a storm. You were taken from me by mistake. I have searched. I have suffered. And now I have found you." Chinedu stared at her as if she had spoken in a language from another world. "No," he said softly, My mother is there. He pointed at Adana. A murmur moved through the crowd. Amara's face tightened with pain. She raised you. I gave birth to you. There is a difference. Adana flinched as if slapped. Chinedu turned to her. Mama, say something. Adana's eyes filled with tears. For 28 years she had feared this question. For 28 years she had practiced answers in the dark. But fear makes poor preparation for the day truth stands in your compound. My son, she said, voice breaking, I do not know everything. I only know that on the night you were born there was a storm. The records were destroyed. Your first mother died. I took you because nobody wanted you. I raised you because my heart could not leave you. Amara cut in. Your first mother did not die. I am standing here. The crowd erupted. The matter moved to the village square because no compound could hold such a storm. Under the old mango tree, elders sat on wooden chairs. Women stood in clusters. Children pushed between legs. The black cars remained nearby like silent judges. Mama Adana sat on a low bench, hands folded, eyes lowered. Chinedu stood beside her, but not too close, as if afraid that touching her would make him break. Chief Okari cleared his throat. This matter is not small, he said. It has slept for 28 years, but today it has woken up hungry. We must speak carefully. A man in the crowd shouted, Carefully? Did Adana speak carefully when she stole a rich woman's child? Chinedu turned toward him. Do not call her a thief. But DNA has spoken, the man replied. DNA can speak about blood, Chinedu said. It cannot speak about who stayed awake when I had fever. The village fell quiet. Chief Okari nodded slowly. Let the rich woman speak. Amara stood. Her voice was steady at first. 28 years ago, I came to this village hospital because the storm blocked the road to the city. I gave birth to a son. The next morning, my husband took me away with the baby the hospital gave us. I was weak. I trusted the nurses. I trusted the hospital. She paused. But as the boy grew, doubts entered my home. After my husband died, I reopened the search. It led me back here. I'm not here because of money. I am here because a mother has the right to know her child. It was not a legal court with judges in wigs. It was the older court of village memory, where everybody who had ever whispered a rumor suddenly became both witness and accused. Some women nodded. Even those who pitied Adana could not ignore Amara's pain. Then Chief Okari turned to Adana. Speak. Adana stood slowly. The village that had mocked her now stared at her like a woman on trial. I was a nurse, she said. I was not a doctor. I was not a record keeper. I was only a young widow trying to keep 2 babies alive while rain entered the roof and the lights went out. Her voice trembled, then grew stronger. That night, people were shouting. The rich family wanted to leave. The poor mother was bleeding. The name tags were wet. I asked that we check again, but no one listened. By morning, 1 mother had gone to the city and 1 mother was dying. When Ebra died, the child left behind had nobody strong enough to keep him. I carried him home for 1 night. She looked at Chinedu. 1 night became my whole life. Tears ran down her face, but she did not wipe them. If this boy is your blood, Madam Amara, then I am sorry for your pain. But I did not steal him. I did not know. I only loved the child the world placed in my arms. A hush fell. Chinedu felt something tear inside him. He had wanted 1 clear villain, 1 simple truth, 1 person to blame. Instead he saw 2 women wounded by the same night. Then an old voice came from the back of the crowd. Adana is telling the truth. Everyone turned. A thin elderly woman stood with the help of a walking stick. Chief Okari frowned. Who is speaking? Sot, she said. Nurse Sod. I was there that night. Adana gasped. The old nurse who had disappeared years ago had returned like a ghost from the storm. The villagers parted as Saad walked forward slowly. Amara's lawyer stood. This is not necessary. Sit down, Shinidu said. His voice was quiet, but something in it made the lawyer obey. Nurse Saad reached the center of the square and looked at Amara. Your husband caused more damage than the storm, she said. The square exploded. Amara's face went pale. What did you say? Saad gripped her stick. I said what I should have said 28 years ago. She spoke slowly, each word carrying the dust of 28 years. The storm was terrible. The records were wet. The babies were moved. But when we realized the tags were unclear, Adana begged everyone to wait. She wanted the doctor to confirm everything before any family left. She pointed a shaking finger at Amara. But your husband refused. Amara shook her head. No. He would not do that. He did, Saad said. He said his family would not sleep in a flooded village hospital. He put money in the matron's hand and demanded the baby he believed was his. The matron was afraid. The doctor had not arrived. The poor woman was unconscious. The rich man was shouting. In that confusion, the wrong child may have been handed over. But Adana did not choose it. She was the only one saying wait. The village turned toward Adana. Faces that had judged her for years now lowered in shame. A woman whispered, so we blamed her for nothing. Sada's voice hardened. Not for nothing. For being poor. That sentence struck the square harder than thunder. Amara sat down as if her bones had failed. Why did nobody tell me? She whispered. Saad looked at her with tired pity. Because your husband made sure the hospital kept quiet. Because the matron wanted to protect the hospital. Because we were afraid. Because truth is expensive, and poor people are often forced to pay the price. Amara's lawyer said, these are only claims from an old woman. Saad pulled a folded paper from inside her blouse. Then read this. It was a letter. The ink was old, the paper yellow at the edges. Chief Okari took the letter and adjusted his glasses. He read aloud. The letter described the storm, the confusion, Adana's warning, the rich husband's pressure, the wet tags, and the hospital's decision to stay silent. It did not prove which baby was which, but it proved something the village had refused to believe. Adana had tried to prevent the mistake. She had not caused it. For a long moment nobody moved. Then Chinidu walked to Mama Adana and knelt before her. Mama, he said, voice breaking, all these years you carried shame that did not belong to you. Adana touched his head with both hands. My son, shame is lighter when love is heavy. I had you. That was enough. Amara watched them and jealousy rose in her chest before she could stop it. She had dreamed of this kneeling. She had dreamed of hearing him call her mother with that kind of broken love. Instead, the moment belonged to another woman. Pain made her speak sharply. Do not forget what I lost. I lost 28 years. I lost first words. First steps. First school day. First sickness. I lost the right to hold my own baby because everyone around me protected pride and reputation. She faced Chinidu. Can you understand that? Chinidu stood slowly. I am trying. Trying is not enough, she said. You are my son. Come home with me. Meet your grandfather before he dies. See where you were meant to grow. Take your place. Mama Adana closed her eyes. The crowd leaned in. This was the choice they had waited for. Blood had spoken. Sacrifice had spoken. Truth had spoken. Now the son had to answer. But Chinidu did not answer that day. He asked for one night. A life has been turned upside down, he told the village. Do not ask my heart to stand straight before sunset. That night, Omuoma did not sleep early. At Adana's house, Chinedu sat outside on the same stone where he had once washed his school sandals. Mama Adana sat near the doorway, hands folded in her lap. For a long time neither spoke. Finally Chinedu said, "Were you afraid this day would come?" Adana smiled sadly. "Every mother is afraid of something. I feared a woman with proof." Across the village, in the guest house, Amara Bello stood by the window and watched the darkness. On the table beside her was a photograph of Daniel, the son raised in her mansion. He was handsome, educated, and distant. He lived in London now. He rarely called unless he needed money. For years, Amara had blamed his coldness on boarding school, on his father's strictness, on the emptiness of wealthy houses. But now she wondered if some part of him had always felt the lie in the walls. She picked up her phone. Daniel answered on the fifth ring. "Mother, I'm in a meeting." Amara closed her eyes. "I found him." There was silence. "Found who?" "My son. My biological son." Another silence, colder than the first. "So what am I?" The question pierced her. "Daniel, you are my son too." He laughed softly, but there was no joy in it. "Too. That is a small word, Mother. It always comes after the real thing. Do not say that. You searched for him behind my back, didn't you?" Amara could not lie. Daniel's voice changed. "For 28 years, I tried to become enough for a family that looked at me like a question. Now the answer has arrived. Congratulations." The call ended. Amara sat on the bed, the phone in her hand, and realized truth had not returned one son to her. It had placed both sons in danger of being lost. By morning, Daniel was already on his way to Omuoma. The next day began with a strange quiet. Even the market opened slowly, as if the village itself was waiting for Chinedu's decision. At noon, everyone gathered again under the mango tree. This time Chinedu stood in the center. On his left stood Mama Adana, wrapped in faded blue cloth. On his right stood Amara Bello, dressed in cream lace. One mother looked like sacrifice. The other looked like loss. Both looked afraid. Chief Okri lifted his hand. "Chinedu or David, whichever name your heart accepts, speak." Chinedu looked at the villagers who had judged his mother, pitied her, mocked him, helped him, taught him, wounded him, and watched him grow. "Yesterday," he began, "I learned that the story of my life has a missing chapter. I learned that my blood came from a house I never entered. I learned that the woman who raised me carried blame she did not deserve. I also learned that a woman I never knew has mourned me for 28 years. He turned to Amara. "Madame Bello, I believe the DNA. I believe your pain. I believe I came from your body. For that, I honor you." Amara's eyes filled. Then he turned to Adana. "Mama, I also know this. When I had no name that anyone respected, you gave me one. When I had no food, you went hungry. When people called me stolen, you called me loved." He faced the crowd. "Blood began me, but love raised me. Blood gave me a body, but sacrifice gave me a soul." The village was silent. Amara whispered, "Does that mean you reject me?" Chinedu looked at her with tears in his eyes. "No. It means I refuse to reject her." The words moved through the square like wind through dry leaves. He walked to Amara and knelt before her. "If you will have me, I will know you. I will visit your home. I will meet my grandfather. I will learn the name David Bello. But I cannot enter your house by stepping on the woman who carried me there through poverty." Then he stood and walked to Adana. He knelt again, lower this time, placing his forehead near her feet. "Mama Adana, before this village, before God, before the woman who gave birth to me, I say you are my mother. Not because of blood, but because every day of my life you chose me." Adana cried out and pulled him up. Some women began to weep. Even Chief Okri removed his glasses. But the moment did not end there. A motorcycle roared into the square. A young man stepped down, tall, well-dressed, with anger burning in his eyes. Amara turned and froze. Daniel? The village murmured. So this was the other son. Daniel walked toward the center, ignoring everyone but Amara. You found your real son, he said. Now tell me where I belong. No one breathed. The story was not finished. Daniel's arrival changed everything. Until that moment, the village had treated the matter like a contest between two mothers and one son. But Daniel stood there as the forgotten half of the storm, the child raised in wealth but robbed of truth, the boy who had grown in a mansion while his blood mother died poor and unknown. He looked at Chinedu with a bitterness that was almost pain. So you are the one, Daniel said. The son they searched for. The missing blood. The miracle. Chinedu answered gently. I did not ask to be searched for, but you were. That is the difference between us. Amara reached for Daniel. Please listen to me. He stepped back. No, mother. Let everyone listen. All my life I felt like a guest in my own home. Grandfather said my nose was wrong. Father said I was too soft. Aunties whispered when they thought I was sleeping. You loved me, yes, but your eyes were always looking behind me for someone else. Now I know why. Amara cried, Daniel, I raised you. He laughed, and this time tears came with it. That is what she said too. He pointed at Adana. So why is her love praised while yours becomes complicated? Is it because she is poor and you are rich? Or because I am the child nobody came to claim? The question hit Chinedu deeply. He turned to Mama Adana. Her face had changed. She was staring at Daniel as if seeing Ebra, the poor young mother who died after the storm. Daniel did not come only with anger. He came with the wound of a child who had eaten at a rich table but still felt hungry for belonging. What was your mother's name? Adana whispered. Daniel frowned. I was told my mother is Amara Bello. No, Adana said softly. Your birth mother's name was Ebra. She had gentle eyes. She died 3 days after giving birth. I carried her baby home because nobody could care for him. But if you are the child taken to the city, then? She could not finish. Daniel's anger faltered. For 28 years, he had imagined many things about his origins. He had imagined scandal, adoption, betrayal. He had not imagined a poor mother dying in a flooded hospital while he was carried into wealth. She died? He asked. Adana nodded. She died calling for her baby. Daniel looked away, but not before everyone saw his face break. Amara covered her mouth. She had been so focused on the child she lost that she had never truly faced the mother whose child she had unknowingly raised. Ebra had no lawyers. No DNA results. No black cars. No one to search for what she lost. She had died and the world moved on. Chinedu stepped toward Daniel. Brother, he said. Daniel stiffened. Do not call me that. What should I call you then? Enemy? Mistake? Replacement? We are both children of the same storm. If we fight, the storm wins again. Daniel's jaw tightened. Chinedu continued, you think I took your place. I could say you took mine. But children do not steal cradles. Adults lose truth. Systems fail. Pride hides mistakes. We were babies. The village listened, humbled. Daniel looked at Mama Adana. If I am the child of Ebra, then you almost raised me. Adana's tears fell silently. Maybe my arms reached for you in the dark and found him instead. Maybe God knew both of you would still need each other one day. Daniel swallowed hard. Amara whispered, Daniel, I am sorry. I loved you, but I also failed you. I searched for one sun and did not see the sun in front of me breaking. For the first time, Daniel did not answer sharply. But forgiveness was not a door he could open in one moment. He looked at Chinidu. And what now? You get 2 mothers, 2 names, a village and an inheritance. What do I get? A dead mother and a life built on someone else's bloodline? Chinidu looked toward the half-built clinic site beyond the square. Then he said the words that changed the ending. You get the truth. And if you allow it, you get a brother. Daniel stared at him. Chinidu turned to the whole village. And both of us get a duty. That duty became the bridge none of them expected. Chinidu asked Amara to help rebuild the old mission hospital into a safe maternity home. He asked Daniel to manage the accounts so no greedy contractor could swallow the money. He asked Mama Adana to train young nurses in compassion, because skill without kindness had already damaged their village once. At first the plan felt impossible. But every week they returned to the broken hospital where the storm had begun. They stood under the stained ceiling, looked at the rusted cribs, and remembered that 2 babies had not switched themselves. Adults had failed them. Pride had failed them. Poverty had failed them. Silence had failed them. One afternoon, Daniel stood beside the old nursery window and asked, "What was Ebra like?" Mama Adana smiled through tears. "Your birth mother was young and frightened, but she was brave. During labor she held my wrist and said, 'Nurse, if my baby lives, tell him I fought for him.'" Daniel turned away quickly. His shoulders shook once. Nobody moved closer. Some grief must be allowed to stand alone before it accepts comfort. After that day Daniel changed. He visited Ebra's small grave. He cleared the weeds himself. He stopped speaking like a stranger and started working like a son returning late to a mother he never got to know. Amara changed too. She stopped arriving with security and expensive gifts. She came with time. She sat with Chinidu under Mama Adana's mango tree. She learned that he liked roasted plantain, that he hummed when thinking, and that he woke before sunrise because poverty had trained his body never to trust comfort too much. Slowly she understood that motherhood could not be repaired by money. It had to be rebuilt by presence. And Mama Adana changed in her own quiet way. She stopped hiding whenever Amara came. She stopped fearing that love was a pot that could feed only one person. One evening she looked at Amara and said, "You did not come only to take him. You came carrying your own wound." Amara held her hand and answered, "And you did not steal my son. You kept him alive until truth found us." 1 year after the black cars first entered Umuoma, the new clinic opened. People came from nearby villages before sunrise. Women carried babies on their backs. Men stood under canopies. Children ran around the clean white building, shouting and laughing. Above the entrance was a sign that made the whole crowd go silent. The 2 mothers' maternity home. In honor of Ebra who fought. In honor of Adana who raised. In honor of Amara who searched. For every mother, rich or poor. When Mama Adana saw her name, she covered her mouth. "My name should not be so big," she whispered. Chinidu took her hand. "For 28 years they made your shame big. Today we make your honor bigger." Chief Okri stood before the village and bowed his head. "We judged a poor woman without truth. Today we ask forgiveness." One by one people came forward. The woman who called her baby thief. The man who shouted at the square. The mothers who once pulled their children away. Mama Adana listened to every apology. Then she said, "I forgive you. But do not let forgiveness become forgetfulness. The next poor woman you are tempted to blame, remember me. The next child you are tempted to label, remember Chinidu. The next truth you are tempted to hide because someone is rich, remember this building." Her words entered the village deeper than any insult could have. The building became more than cement and paint. It became an apology with windows, a promise with doors, and a place where the next poor mother would not have to beg to be seen. Then Chinidu stood to speak. "I was born during a storm, he said. For many years I thought storms only destroy. But today I know a storm can also reveal the weakness of the walls, the strength of the roof, and the people willing to stand in the rain for you. He looked at Mama Adana, then at Amara. I have two names. Chinedu Ease and David Bello. I have two mothers. One gave me blood. One gave me daily bread. One searched for me through grief. One raised me through hunger. If I honor one and reject the other, I become smaller than the mercy that saved me. The village wept. That same evening, the first baby was born safely inside the new maternity home. The lights did not fail. The records were correct. The name tag was dry. The nurse placed the newborn into her mother's arms, and the baby's cry filled the hallway like a song of healing. Mama Adana closed her eyes and smiled. God has answered late, she whispered, but he has answered well. Years later, people still told the story under moonlit trees. They said blood matters, but blood is not the only language of love. They said birth matters, but staying matters too. They said a child is not property to be claimed, but a life to be protected. And whenever rain fell on the roof of the two mothers' maternity home, Chinedu would stand between Mama Adana and Mother Amara, with Daniel beside them, and remember the truth that saved them all. The storm switched them. Pride hid them. Pain shaped them. But love found them. The elders of Umuoma later said that the hardest part of the story was not the DNA paper. It was not the rich cars. It was not even the village apology. The hardest part was learning that two painful truths can stand in the same room. Amara truly lost a son. Adana truly raised one. Daniel truly felt replaced. Chinedu truly felt divided. And none of their pain disappeared simply because the facts were finally known. That is why the village changed slowly. Mothers began demanding proper records at the hospital. Fathers stopped shouting at nurses as if money gave them ownership over life. Young nurses were trained to write every name twice, check every tag twice, and treat every crying woman as important. Mama Adana would often sit outside the maternity home in the evenings. When young mothers thanked her, she never accepted praise easily. She would only say, "Do not thank me. Thank the child who taught me that love is not born once. Love is born every day in every sacrifice." And when people asked Chinedu whether he had forgiven the storm, he would answer, "I do not forgive rain. Rain only falls. I forgive the people who let fear, pride, and silence become stronger than truth." That was the lesson Umuoma carried forward. The storm was not the real enemy. The real enemy was silence. So never despise the mother with empty hands. She may have given everything she had. Never think money can replace presence because a child remembers who stayed. Never bury truth to protect your name because truth is a seed. Even under 28 years of silence, it will grow. Never judge the poor quickly. Sometimes the person you blame is the only one who tried to do right. And above all, never ask love to prove itself only with blood. Because sometimes, the woman who did not give you life is the one who teaches you how to live. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes that love, truth, and forgiveness still matter. And tell us in the comments, who was the real mother in this story, the woman who gave birth, the woman who raised him, or both? A name can be written on paper, but motherhood is written in nights without sleep, meals given away, prayers whispered over fever, and the courage to love when the world is watching with judgment in its eyes.